Hello and a very warm welcome. It is 9 PM IST and we are coming to you live from the WION headquarters in Noida, India. I'm Molly Gambhir and this is Gravitas with a new look but the same old spirit. Let's get started. Today, Russia has leveled a serious charge against the United States. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, accused the United States of trying to destabilize India. At a time when Indians are voting to choose their next government, the Russian diplomat has accused Washington of interfering in India's internal affairs, also making unfounded accusations about India's religious freedom, and also of accusing without evidence a hand in the plot to kill a Khalistani terrorist who has found safe haven in the United States. And she did not stop there. Zakharova has accused the US of disrespecting India and lacking an understanding of India's history. So what triggered Russia's scathing criticism of Washington's actions? Many things, chief among them, a US panel report accusing India of violating religious freedom. All allegations that India has strongly rejected. Is the Russian criticism of the US far-fetched? After all, the US has recently made damning allegations against the world's largest democracy. And while the US government counts India as a close friend, American publications have repeatedly criticized India, always quick to put India in boxes. There is undeniable systemic bias when it comes to the Western media's portrayal of India as the world's largest democracy with a rich and complicated history with Western imperialism. India certainly does not need lecturing from anyone. Hence, Russia's analysis of America's mentality towards India may not be far off, and that is our top story tonight. Also on the show for you is Rishi Sunak's political career over. Sunak's Conservatives are 30 points behind the Labour in a latest survey, which also suggests that come elections, Labour would get a 452-seat majority. Is Sunak paying the price for leaving the country a living mess? The Indian Army could stop importing ammunition from the next financial year. At a recent event, the Indian Army's ADG for procurement said that currently only 5 to 10% of the Army's requirement is met by foreign suppliers. 70-year-old Robert Kennedy Jr., who is running for the White House as an independent, has said that too long ago, a worm entered and ate a portion of his brain. This is not a story you want to miss. Today, Russia has leveled a big charge against the United States. It's not about Ukraine, it's not about the NATO, it's about India. Russia claims that the US is trying to unbalance India's internal political situation. Now, that's a big charge. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, has said, and I'm quoting, the US continues to make unfounded accusations about religious freedoms in India. The US simply did not understand the national mindset and the historical context of the development of the Indian state, nor do they respect it, quote unquote. I'm quoting further. The reason behind the US accusations is to unbalance the internal political situation in India and complicate the general elections. Quoting further, we believe that it stems from the neo-colonial mindset of the US. And she did not stop there, by the way. The Russian diplomat also trashed allegations of India's involvement in a foiled plot to kill Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Zakharova said, and I'm quoting, "According to our information, Washington has not yet provided reliable evidence of the involvement of Indian citizens in the preparation of the murder of a certain G.S. Pannu." Quoting further, speculation on this topic is the absence of evidence. In the absence of evidence is unacceptable. Quoting further, the US lacks understanding of India's national mentality. That is what the Russian diplomat is saying. Such harsh criticism of the US is expected from Russia. It does not share the same close relationship that India, after all, shares with America. Yet, even with close ties, isn't there some truth to the fact that the US maybe lacks a deeper understanding of India? The specific allegation against the US of meddling in Indian elections is particularly significant. It comes a week after New Delhi warned the US that biased reports against India interfere with the election exercise. And just a week ago, India's External Affairs Ministry accused the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, which is a federal body, of interfering in India's poll exercise. In its annual report, the Commission had recommended that India be classified as a country of particular concern. India rejected the report and slammed the US body for lacking an understanding of India's diverse, pluralistic, and democratic ethos. And a week before that, US State Department's annual report also alleged and made allegations as far as human rights are concerned, which had accused India of similar violations. And then too, India had rejected the deeply biased report. The largest democratic exercise in history is unfolding in India. Yet, the Western media, blinded by its self-serving agenda, fails to recognize its significance. They even dare to doubt the integrity of India's electoral process. Have a look at the visuals on your screen. In India, elections are a celebration of democracy. From remote forests to isolated islands, polling officials travel across the length and breadth of the country to ensure that every citizen can exercise their right to vote. Does this smack of a country in peril? Citizens flock to the polling stations in droves, determined to choose their political representatives. Yet, American media shows a blatant bias, distorting the truth about India. Let me illustrate this with a recent incident. In a press briefing, a US State Department spokesperson was asked if the US would send election observers to India. What was the response? Advanced democracies like India don't need such scrutiny. But it's the reporter's question that reveals the depth of bias. Some American outlets even doubt the fairness of Indian elections, while the US itself witnesses shrinking voting booths and drop-off centers. Contrast that with India's reality. A polling booth was set up in the Gir forest of Gujarat just for one voter. One voter. And take the example of voting on the Great Nicobar Island, where 7 members of the vulnerable Shompen tribe cast their ballot for the first time. That's the beauty of Indian democracy. It's because the Indian law mandates that a polling station be set up within 2 kilometers of every home. Yet America silently ignores these narratives. This is undeniable proof of America's ignorance, its failure to comprehend India's spirit, its history, its culture, its aspirations. By fixating on sensationalism, they perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Underreporting is also a form of discrimination. The US, haunted by its own election integrity issues, often projects its insecurities on democracies like India without due diligence. But ignorance does not alter the reality. Here in India, we have a saying, it roughly translates to, if you wear black glasses, the whole world appears black. Perhaps it's time the US removes its blindfold. Is Rishi Sunak's political career over? Under him, the Tories are a mess. They are 30 points behind the Labour Party in the latest polls. The UK is expected to go to the polls in January 2025, just 8 months from now. And Sunak's Conservatives are 30 points behind the Labour in the poll carried out by YouGov for the Times. The result shows the Labour on 48%, the Conservatives 18%. The Reform UK just 5 points behind. The survey suggests that come elections, Labour would get a 452-seat majority. And as I speak, the support for Sunak's Tories is at its lowest since Liz Truss's 49-day government. But then are you surprised? Under Sunak, the UK has become a third world country. A third world country is one that is economically weaker. It is a country battling economic instability, high poverty. A third world country is one that lacks basic infrastructure, basic necessities. And Britain seems to be checking all the boxes. Today, there is a shortage of essential drugs in the UK. Doctors are worried. Pharmacists are worried. Patients are petrified. Now, these are essential drugs we are talking about. Drugs for ADHD, drugs for type 2 diabetes, epilepsy. Pharmacists say lives are at risk. And that is how serious this problem is. It's not hard to imagine. For a diabetes patient, her drug is a lifesaver. And without them, anything can happen anytime. In the UK, diabetes patients are being turned away at pharmacies because there is no stock. Same with epilepsy patients. Let me read out for you what the head of an epilepsy society told the British media. Our helpline has been inundated with calls from desperate people who are having to travel miles, often visiting multiple pharmacies, to try and access their medication. This is the UK we are talking about, not Sudan, not Venezuela. This is the UK battling third world problems. We spoke about basic infra. In the UK, roads are not even at break point, but well past it. As per estimates quoted in the British press, there are 6 potholes per mile in England and Wales. Further, estimates say there are over 1 million potholes in the UK. Such is the situation that Britain's Royal Automobile Club has been forced to come up with a pothole index. You don't need me to tell you that potholes increase the risk of accidents and deaths on the road. And the risk, by the way, does not end here. Today, even Britain's prisons are overcrowded. Cells meant for a single prisoner now house 2, sometimes even 3 inmates. Britain's prison system has not been upgraded since the Victorian era. The infra is over a century old. Data published in 2023 revealing that the number of deaths on the prison estate is up 9% as compared to the year before. The number of suicides is up 26%. Self-harm in the women's prison is up 52%. Inspectors have rated most British prisons as poor or inadequate. Again, this is not Venezuela. It is still Rishi Sunak's UK we are talking about. Why don't you do a quick online search here? Look up the United Kingdom. You will be met with one bad news after the other. The UK is expected to be the worst performing G7 economy next year. We're not the ones saying that. OECD is, that is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The Paris-based think tank believes that the UK will grow by just 0.4% this year. In 2025, the UK is expected to grow by up just 1%. Government policies are not helping. Economists say the UK's economy could be staring at a long-term irrelevance without immigration. A leading think tank claiming the next government in the UK will be forced to hit voters with post-election tax rises. There is a housing crisis in the UK. In Oxford, house prices are 12 times the average salary. Over 3,000 households are on the waiting list for homes. Reports say there is also an electricity problem in the UK. There is a shortage of electricity networks in the UK. Banks are closing branches in the UK. As per estimates, 6,000 bank branches have been closed since 2015. This includes branches of Barclays, NatWest, the Royal Bank of Scotland. TSB will reportedly be closing 36 branches over the next 18 months. The Thames, which is an emblem of London, is facing a crisis as well. Shareholders of Thames Water are refusing to invest. This, by the way, is the company responsible for water supply and wastewater treatment in most of Greater London area. Now, is this a failure of privatization, or is the story the poster boy of the bigger picture of failure here? Today, British women are sadder than their European peers. British women are also more stressed. They are battling negative emotions more than their European counterparts. I'm talking about worry, stress, anger. Still, the UK we are talking about here, the UK under which Rishi Sunak appears to have become a third world country. India was, in defense terms, a third world country for the longest time. India produced little to no defense equipment. Today, it is on the road to becoming self-reliant, or what we call Atmanirbhar. The Indian Army is aiming to completely cut off imports of ammunition by the next financial year. We are talking about 2025 to 26. Major General V.K. Sharma, who is the ADG of procurement in the Indian Army, has said at a recent event that the Indian Army is currently purchasing anywhere between 6,000 crore rupees to 8,000 crore rupees worth of ammunition globally. All of this will now come from Indian makers. Now, currently, foreign suppliers meet 5 to 10% of the Army's requirement, and soon Indian suppliers will fulfill this need as well. Major General Sharma said that the Indian Army has already found indigenous sources for 150 to 175 types of ammunition. You see, what we have here is a great success story. This is an explosive story of a country that went from barely making defense equipment to now having an almost self-reliant army. And the story does not end here, by the way. India is also looking to become a major arms exporter. And fueling this growth are India's policies, India's PSUs, or public sector undertakings, private players, including large corporates, startups, research and development institutes. Today, defense factories are coming up across India. There is innovation, a push for research, push for export. India has already made giant leaps in this field. India's defense exports touched a record 21,000 plus crore rupees in the last financial year. It's a year-on-year growth of 32.5%. Now, if you compare the last decade to the previous one, then you will see a 21 times growth in India's defense export. In the last financial year, India's defense sector touched a new milestone by starting the export of the BrahMos missile system to the Philippines. This was a deal worth $375 million. Now, there are talks that Vietnam is looking to buy the BrahMos missiles from India. The deal could be worth $625 million. Also talks of how Indonesia could be looking to buy the BrahMos. This is as per reports. It is expected to be a deal worth at least $200 million. Reports say India could be in talks with as many as 8 countries for exporting the BrahMos missile. There are countries in Southeast Asia, countries from West Asia, also in Africa. Today, India is not just exporting BrahMos missiles, but Dornier 228 aircraft, ALH helicopters, or advanced light helicopters. India also exports armored vehicles, radars, rockets, launchers, torpedo loading mechanism, night vision monocular, night vision binoculars, drones, artillery systems, coastal surveillance radars. It's a long list. Also, there is a long list of buyers, by the way. India today exports defense products to over 80 countries. Here are some of the major importers: Sri Lanka, Nepal, Israel, Egypt, the UAE, Ethiopia, Bhutan, Saudi Arabia, the Philippines, Poland, Spain, Chile. Around a month ago, India delivered HAL 228 aircraft to Guyana. That contract was fulfilled in a record time. India is also looking to export fighter jets. Tejas, to be more specific, it is an indigenously produced fighter jet. Its maker is HAL, or the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. The advanced variant of Tejas, the Mark 1A, has completed its maiden flight in Bengaluru. The fighter jet comes with digital radar warning receivers, a superior radar, advanced beyond visual range air-to-air missiles, and external self-protection jammer pods. Could India soon start exporting this fighter jet? Last year, when Malaysia put out a tender for LCA or light combat aircraft, India responded by pitting the Tejas as a perfect buy. India's Tejas and South Korea's Kai FA-50 made it to the final shortlist. HAL is confident that Tejas would soon become the blue-eyed boy of India's defense export. HAL says Argentina and Egypt have shown interest in the Tejas. Argentina is in discussion for nearly 15 LCAs. Egypt is looking at 20. If India manages to sell its indigenously built light combat aircraft Tejas, it will enter the exclusive club of countries that export fighter jets. That will be yet another milestone for this explosive story that is India's defense sector. Also coming up for you on the show tonight, we will tell you the story of Bengaluru's rise as the city with one of the most millionaires. Do IPL owners think they understand cricket better than cricketers? We ask this question as the video of a heated conversation between Lucknow Super Giants captain KL Rahul and the team's owner Sanjeev Goenka goes viral. Also on the show, we tell you how employers are trying to lure employees back to work with a new work trend. It's called office peacocking. We tell you all about it. In the UK, an 18-month-old girl has regained her hearing. She is the first in the world to undergo an innovative gene therapy that brings a fresh light of hope to 20% of the world's population that has hearing disabilities. 2 students in the US have solved a 2,000-year-old mathematics puzzle. We tell you all about this on the show tonight. Who will be Tim Cook's successor? The Apple CEO will soon turn 65. Will he retire? And has he found his replacement? We get you that story in just a bit. As the race to the White House heats up, our next story is about one presidential candidate, and it's no ordinary story. He is making news because of a brain worm. That's right, a brain worm. According to the New York Times, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has said that a health problem he experienced in 2010 was caused by a worm that got into his brain and ate a portion of it. What really happened? Our next report gets you the details.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the 70-year-old independent US presidential candidate, is dominating headlines. A New York Times report has sent shockwaves across the world. It has been reported that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had a parasite in his brain more than a decade ago. Yes, you heard that right. As per the New York Times report, in 2010, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was experiencing memory loss and mental fogginess so severe that a friend grew concerned. he might have a brain tumor. But as it turned out, it was a brain worm. The New York Times cited a 12-year-old deposition. According to the report, Kennedy stated in his deposition that a doctor had told him an abnormality on his brain scan was caused by a worm that got into his brain and ate a portion of it and then died. After the report was put out, his campaign has said that he has fully recovered. Kennedy spokeswoman Stephanie Spear has told Reuters that the issue was resolved more than 10 years ago, and he is in robust physical and mental health. In fact, hours after this article was published, Mr. Kennedy posted a comment on his X profile. It said, quote, "I offered to eat 5 more brain worms and still beat President Trump and President Biden in a debate." He added, quote, "I feel confident in the result even with a 6-worm handicap," unquote. According to the report, he has said that about the same time he learned of the parasite, he was also diagnosed with mercury poisoning. Most likely from ingesting too much fish containing dangerous heavy metal, which can cause serious neurological issues. In an interview with The Times, he has said he had recovered from the memory loss and fogginess and had no after effects from the parasite, which he said had not required treatment. Over the years, Kennedy Jr. has suffered from serious health problems, including a heart problem, for which he has been repeatedly hospitalized, and a spasmodic dysphonia, a neurological condition that affects his voice. A spokeswoman for the Kennedy campaign was asked if any of Mr. Kennedy's health issues could compromise his fitness for the presidency. In response, Stephanie Spear told The Times, "That is a hilarious suggestion given the competition." Kennedy Jr. is a scion of a famous political clan. His father was the US Attorney General and New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy. His uncle, John F. Kennedy, was the 35th president. As he eyes the top job, interestingly, Kennedy Jr.'s campaign has focused on showing off his physical fitness, in contrast to that of Joe Biden as well as Donald Trump. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The world's wealthiest cities are constantly evolving, and a rising star is challenging the status quo. Bengaluru in India. That's right, a recent study by Henley and Partners reveals Bengaluru's meteoric rise. Nicknamed the Silicon Valley of India, Bengaluru boasts a booming tech sector that is attracting significant wealth. The city now ranks among the top 10 wealthiest globally, with over 13,200 high net worth individuals, those with investable assets exceeding $1 million. Now, this rapid growth is fueled by the presence of global tech giants like Infosys and Wipro. In fact, Bengaluru's rise as a wealth hub is a testament to India's growing ability to attract investments, also talent. India's economic success extends beyond its borders. According to the International Organization for Migration, India has become the world's largest recipient of remittances, surpassing the $100 billion mark for the first time in 2022. These remittances represent the contribution of millions of Indian migrant workers around the world. They go a long way in supporting families back home, funding education, healthcare, overall well-being. Southern Asia, with its large and dynamic migrant workforce, in fact, is a major recipient of remittances globally. The stories of Bengaluru's wealth and India's record-breaking remittances are interconnected. The success of Bengaluru's tech sector may be attracting returning talent and investment, further fueling its growth remittances can potentially play a significant role in supporting investment back into India's growing sectors like technology. And this, you see, creates a cycle of opportunity, also progress. As India continues its economic journey, it will be fascinating to see if Bengaluru can maintain its position as a global wealth hub. Additionally, will remittances continue to serve as a catalyst for the creation of future wealth hubs across the country? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear: India's role in the global wealth landscape is undeniably significant. The IPL is one of India's greatest success stories. Its brand value is over $10 billion. Every match is watched by millions, not just in India but across the world. But a viral video has sparked outrage among fans. Lucknow Super Giants owner Sanjeev Goenka is seen talking to team captain KL Rahul. As it appears in the video, it's not a friendly conversation. So was the owner telling off the team captain? And if yes, do franchise owners even have the right to berate players on sporting matters? First, let's get to the full context. The Lucknow Super Giants were handed an absolute hammering by the Sunrisers Hyderabad. The Sunrisers chased down the 166-run target in less than 10 overs, 9.4 overs to be exact. It was the highest 10-over score in the history of T20 cricket. Make no mistake about it, the defeat was humiliating for the Lucknow Super Giants. And while fans were still getting to grips with the extraordinary result, the cameras turned to a quote-unquote interaction between the Lucknow Super Giants owner Goenka and captain KL Rahul. The video then went viral for the following reasons. One is not privy to the words used by Goenka, but like we said, it did not seem like a friendly conversation. Yes, it is Goenka who bankrolls the franchise and has spent millions. Naturally, he would be upset, but the video has also angered fans who think that his outburst should have taken place behind closed doors at the very least. And let's face it, Rahul has had his critics, but has done India proud on several occasions and is about to complete 10 years in international cricket. Rahul, for that matter, in the video, looked calm. Now, Goenka has every right to feel disappointed about the loss, but has he played cricket at professional level? The answer is no. And this, by the way, is not the first time a team has been handed a heavy defeat. It is, in fact, a regular occurrence, not just in the IPL, but in sport in general. That is what it is all about. Goenka can actually take a cue from Bollywood superstar Shah Rukh Khan, perhaps. The Indian actor, as you all know, owns Kolkata Knight Riders. They have been at the receiving end of humbling defeats in the past, but never have such scenes been seen in public. Tech giant Apple is in the news again. However, this time it's Apple CEO Tim Cook who is making the headlines. As Cook nears the traditional retirement age of 65, the question on everyone's mind is, who will be the next Apple CEO? Has Tim Cook chosen his successor? Tim Cook took over the reins of one of the world's most powerful tech companies in the year 2011. Cook stepped in after the resignation of Apple co-founder and CEO Steve Jobs. As per reports, Cook is one of the longest and the oldest serving CEOs among the Fortune 500 CEOs in the world. Tim Cook will turn 65 in 2025. Understand that while Cook has given no concrete timeline for stepping down, there has been a lot of speculation about who the next Apple CEO will be. Let's just take a quick look at the names doing the rounds. According to sources familiar with Apple's internal dynamics, Jeff Williams, Apple's chief operating officer, has long been seen as a top contender. However, his age could be a factor that can go against him. Williams is 61 right now. Concerns about his age and long-term commitment to the role have raised doubts among company insiders about his suitability as a long-term CEO. It is speculated that just like Cook and Jobs, the Apple board would probably want an executive who will be able to hold the mantle for at least a decade. Another name coming up on top is John Ternus. Ternus is currently serving as Apple's senior vice president of hardware engineering. Over the years, Apple has increasingly made Ternus the face of new products. In fact, this week, Ternus was at the forefront of Apple's Let Loose event. At 49 years old, many believe Ternus is more likely to provide stable leadership for the company over the long term. As Tim Cook's era gradually approaches its end, the question still remains: is mandatory retirement age still prevalent in 2024? Does turning 65, or whichever age your company or the government has decided, mean that you are no longer able to provide value and service to your organization? When most government leaders around the world are over 60 years of age, when they can decide a country's fate, what really is stopping companies from doing the same? Or, dare I say, should it be the other way around? Our next story is about a work trend. It's called office peacocking. The trend involves doing up office spaces, redesigning them, making them attractive. You know why? So that employers can get employees to come to office. Yes, currently it's quite a struggle. Managers, in fact, watching the story might agree. You see, when the pandemic struck, people were forced to work from home. Roles where work from home was previously unthinkable, in fact, suddenly became remote. Companies had to make it happen, think out of the office space, or risk redundancy. Now, with the pandemic long gone, companies want normalcy restored in the workplace as well. They want employees back at work, back in the office. But people around the world have become used to the new normal. The comfort of working from home in pajamas, or the comfort of working from a cafe or even by the sea, as long as they are delivering and meeting deadlines. What's the harm? This is the question employees are asking. Employers, on the other hand, are citing reports that say work from home reduces productivity, even innovation, which is why Zoom, the poster child of pandemic work from home, also is calling its employees back to work. But guess what? In this post-pandemic world, there are employees who would rather quit their job and start work with a company that allows flexi or remote working than go back to office. And this has put companies in quite a tight spot. How exactly do you get workers back to office? Some have threatened to sack employees. Some have threatened a pay cut. Some have threatened to take away bonuses. None of these tactics have proved to be foolproof. So enter office peacocking. Why threaten talented employees when you can lure them to work? But how do you do that? Well, in the bird kingdom, a peacock shows off his colorful feathers to attract a mate. In the dating world, men are often seen peacocking, wearing loud clothes perhaps, or being loud in general just to get noticed or get attention. In the corporate world, employers are adding more soft drinks to their pantry fridge. Some are adding free meals. Some are offering next-gen workspaces with loungers and libraries. Whatever it takes to get workers back to the workstation. Like a high table, you have it. Are you more comfortable on a beanbag? There you go. Some offices are also offering free coffee and cookies. This is what office peacocking is all about. The art of attracting employees. What is your office doing? Let us know. On that note, we're taking a very short break. Stay with us. You are watching Gravitas.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injured have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
And welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us. You are watching Gravitas. More than 1.5 billion people, or nearly 20% of the global population, have hearing disabilities. According to the WHO, that is 430 million people with hearing loss. And of them, 34 million happen to be children. But now, there is hope for them. In the UK, an 18-month-old girl has regained her hearing. In fact, she is the first in the world to undergo an innovative gene therapy trial. Opal Sandy suffered from auditory neuropathy. This is a condition that basically disrupts the signals from the ear to the brain. It made Opal profoundly deaf. What came to her rescue was a pioneering gene therapy that was tested both in the UK and globally. It nearly restored the toddler's hearing with prospects for further improvement. Opal's parents described the results as mind-blowing.
I think we'd been given a really unique opportunity with no real evidence that any harm or adverse effects was likely to come to her, and I think a lot of parents, regardless of their difficulties their children face, to be given an opportunity to potentially make obstacles easier for her to overcome was a risk definitely worth taking.
Genetic factors contribute to over 50% of childhood hearing loss cases. Variations in the OTOF gene leads to hearing loss. It's often unnoticed till speech delays emerge around the ages 2 to 3. The treatment that is administered as an ear infusion corrects the defective DNA responsible for the genetic hearing loss. Young Opal is involved in a trial that is actively enrolling participants from the UK, the US, Spain. The treatment employs a benign, altered virus to transport a functional OTOF gene variant into the cells. Opal received the therapy in her right ear under anesthesia, along with a cochlear implant in her left ear. Weeks later, she responded to loud noises like applause with her right ear.
We can start to use gene therapy in young children, restore hearing for a variety of different kinds of genetic hearing loss, and then have a more one-and-done type approach where we actually restore the hearing. They don't have to have cochlear implants and other technologies that have to be replaced.
In a groundbreaking display of mathematical prowess, 2 students at St. Mary's Academy in New Orleans, US, have shattered centuries-old assumptions. They solved a math puzzle thought to be impossible for 2,000 years. Our next report telling you more.
At St. Mary's Academy, a math contest set the stage for innovation. Michelle Bluen-Williams, a high school math teacher, posed a challenging bonus question to her students. This question tasked them with creating a novel proof for the Pythagorean theorem using trigonometry, a feat deemed impossible for nearly 2,000 years. She didn't expect much, but she was in for a surprise when 2 of her students, Calcia Johnson and Nakia Jackson, rose to the occasion and solved the 2,000-year-old puzzle. Of course, the allure of a $500 prize was an added motivation. After months of relentless work, they submitted their groundbreaking proofs. That was in December 2022. The duo is now in college. Encouraged by their teachers, they took their work beyond the classroom, presenting at a mathematics conference and then venturing into publication. Even today, their mathematical journey continues as they explore additional proofs of the Pythagorean theorem. For context, the Pythagorean theorem, expressed as a square plus b square is equal to c square, is a fundamental concept in geometry. It allows calculation of a right triangle's third side based on the lengths of the other 2 sides. Though initially daunting, Calcia and Nakia took on the challenge, unaware that such proofs using trigonometry were previously deemed unattainable. In 2009, mathematician Jason Zimba submitted a proof, paving the way for Calcia and Nakia's groundbreaking contributions. The magnitude of their achievement reverberated globally, earning them accolades from far and wide. Their work garnered attention from South Korea. They even got a shout-out from former First Lady Michelle Obama. They received commendations from local authorities. Yet, amidst the celebration, the 2 students also encountered harsh racism. That hasn't stopped the 2 geniuses from continuing on their math journey. While Nakia received a full scholarship at Xavier University in New Orleans, Calcia, the class valedictorian, is studying environmental engineering at Louisiana State University. While neither plans to pursue a career in mathematics, they have surely left an indelible mark on the field. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Time now for Gravitas Recall. On this day in 1960, the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, approved the world's first commercially produced birth control bill. The Innovate 10, made by the G.D. Serle Company of Chicago, Illinois, the development of the pill, as it became popularly known, was first commissioned by birth control pioneer Margaret Sanger. It was funded by heiress Catherine McCormick. Sanger, who opened the first birth control clinic in the US in 1916, hoped to encourage the development of a more practical and effective alternative to contraceptives that were in use at the time. In the early 1950s, a biochemist at the Worcester Foundation for Experimental Biology, Gregory Pincus, and a gynecologist at Harvard Medical School, John Rock, began work on a birth control pill. Clinical tests of the pill started in 1954. At first, they used synthetic progesterone and estrogen to repress ovulation in women. And then, on the 9th of May 1960, the FDA approved the pill. It was a major milestone in the fight for women's bodily autonomy. It granted greater reproductive freedom to the American women. It also serves as a powerful reminder at a time when America struggles to grant women the freedom over their own bodies. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
The Indian tourism market, the source market has actually tremendously decreased. There was some remarks which was derogatory in nature towards the leadership of India. We have issued statements and we believe the message was received well. The previous government has actually taken debt from, I think it was 60 billion rupiah when they came in. Now when they left it was about 120 billion rupiah. So obviously a big part of that is in India. So I think we are also part of those countries where China has been actively engaged in developing and then bringing projects and bringing finances which they were investing abroad. We will definitely be very sensitive to any needs of our neighbors. We will make sure that Indian Ocean is a peaceful place, and a peaceful Indian Ocean is good for India as well as it's good for Maldives. Maldives, like I said, we are pro-Maldives and we have no intention of replacing military of another country or anything because we are pro-Maldives.
The biggest democratic exercise on the planet ever. Decoding the multiple colors of this multi-dimensional, multi-layered spectacle. WION deciphers the images and the hues. Sifts real performance from rhetoric and noise, claims and counterclaims. Populist